Okay, a lot of stuff has happened recently. 2 giant storms, a big election season. Let's talk about how this all affects real estate in Florida. Here we go. I'm Sam, and this is the Living in Tampa channel. We make these videos for you to know what it's like to live and move to the whole Tampa area. We're also a team of realtors, and we'd love a chance to earn your real estate business here in the greater Tampa area. Give us a call, text, or email anytime. Okay, let's start with what just happened. Election just happened. Trump is the new president-elect. But I want to talk about some other things that just happened. We had 2 massive hurricanes. Really only one that was a direct hit. This other one had this other effect. So Hurricane Helene, which came through on August 25th or 26th. I should look at my claim. The date is definitely on there. It went further north. It went up to like the Big Bend area. My daughter's like, what's that area? I'm like, just imagine Florida has an armpit right up there. That's where it hit. But we were on what's called the dirty side, just like we were with Hurricane Idalia. Well, my house flooded last year. My house flooded again this year. You probably saw the video. But it was a pretty massive impact. My house had 40 inches of water, and there's like 100,000 homes in the Tampa area that are damaged, and 20 to 40,000 that are damaged like mine, uninhabitable. Now, you could get them dry and get electrical running back again and inhabit it somewhat, but there's no drywall in a lot of these houses. A lot of them need new electrical work, all that kind of stuff. And Pinellas County was hit the hardest. Close to 20,000 homes that are very damaged, what they call severe damage. And then it's really close to 60,000 homes that have damage. Some completely destroyed. The number of destroyed is very low though. But with Hurricane Milton, we thought we were gonna get hit directly. They were even saying this is the biggest storm in modern history if it keeps going this way. A lot of speculation, obviously, with a storm like this. It's funny, locals kind of become these like meteorologists. We're all just watching Mike's weather page to see what he says about it, who's like a local storm chaser and very knowledgeable about this stuff, has a big YouTube channel. You can see him right there. But I'm like literally refreshing his Instagram every hour, or especially at like 11 and 5 whenever they do these big updates for what the storm tracking is saying. But Milton, we expected a big impact. That kind of a storm, if it hits when it's a category 5, it's, busting out windows, has all kinds of major problems. And Hurricane Milton did cause a lot of problems, but most of the problems were with power. So many people in the Tampa area were without power and without gas for so long. There's this big rush to get gas in your cars, get gas for generators and everything before the storm. I was actually going out at like 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. looking for gas within like a 10-mile radius. And it took me a few days to find it. Wawa was always the one that had gas, but always had a line. It was kind of tricky. Then for 10 days following Milton, the gas started to barely drip into the area. So imagine everybody usually operates at probably like a quarter tank of usage for their vehicles. So when I'm saying that, I mean, I might have half a tank, my wife might have an eighth of a tank, and then we just kind of use both cars and fill them up when you need to. But when everybody just rushes and fills up, they ran out of gas. I also needed 20 gallons of gas for my generator, anticipating losing power. I actually didn't lose power, but my in-laws were able to use the generator and the gas. And then I gave like 10 gallons away to a friend that was struggling to find gas. Like, people were stockpiling gas though in this prep for the storm. So that just happened. Let's look though at real estate. What has happened in the past 5 years? So in the past 5 years, prices have gone up a lot. Prices have really gone up, 50 to 90% in a lot of cases. That's a lot of appreciation. Population has also grown. Tampa has been, one of the most popular places to relocate to in the past 5 years. It's been toward the top of the list. Places to move in Florida, but just places to move in the country overall. And the Tampa area makes up 15% of the state's population. It's a little over 3 million people in the greater Tampa area. It's a pretty big area, and it's a pretty big impact on the state and the state economy. So they want it to be popular. They want people to move here, all those kind of things. In those 5 years, locals who have been here a long time have thought, this is crazy. We have too many people moving here. They're building too many houses. People that were moving from outside, our clients oftentimes, were like, these prices are still so low and the schools aren't very good. And I think what else they would say. And we're scared of hurricanes. Insurance is expensive. those kind of things. But over the past 5 years, people have been coming in, people have been settling in, and now we're here. And Tampa is still toward the top of the list of the like in-out ratio. A lot more people are coming in than leaving. But let's look back at the past real quick. The last direct hit of a hurricane, we still haven't had a direct hit. Milton almost was a direct hit, but the previous direct hit was in 1921. Now this was the beginning of the Florida bloom. The Tampa area was growing like crazy, not just downtown Tampa, Ybor area, but also over on the coast. St. Petersburg and Tarpon Springs had industries that were growing really fast. And during this time, railroads were being built like crazy in this part of the country, and they saw the potential for this to be a port. Before the Tampa Bay had this giant port, which is one of the busiest ports in the country, before it had this big port, it was a very shallow estuary. Estuaries are where, fish, like marine life is born, where they're babies and then they go out into the Gulf. There's estuaries all over the Tampa area, not just the bay, but all of these like river systems, all these kind of things. All the, mangroves you see are estuary systems that marine life is born into. Actually, when I was getting married in 2014, we were down here, we got married at a little chapel in Dunedin, and we were just looking for something to do, me and my family, and we went on a boat tour, estuary boat tour. So we learned all about the estuary of the Anclote River. It was super interesting. So I've been kind of a nerd about it ever since then. But once they saw the potential for this port, they started dredging the Tampa Bay like crazy, building up the land around it and making these deeper canals for these big ships to come into the area. Now there's all kinds of ideas about how that has affected the land around the Tampa Bay with the dredging, like all the stuff that was, dredged up. And even going through the Anclote River in Tarpon Springs, you can see, they dredged that a few times over the years, and you have these little man-made islands from the dredging. But once the bay was dredged, there was a big canal, the port started growing and growing and growing until, obviously the Great Depression depressed the area pretty bad. So it's been climbing since then, but let's go back to the storms. Let's talk about the impact of storms on a couple different things. First of all, there is kind of this side impact of the storms. People have actually moved to the Tampa area over the years because of storms in other parts of the state. Storms that hit Naples and Sarasota and Fort Myers areas really hard, or Miami, the East Coast. People have moved to Tampa as this kind of safe haven that doesn't get direct hits. Now, we still haven't since 1921, so I'm not saying otherwise, but we've had some pretty bad floods, pretty big impacts from these storms, even if they haven't been direct hits. So that has contributed to population growth. Our big influx of population in the Tampa area is actually from other parts of the state. That hasn't really changed over the years. It's just kind of remained constant. Yeah, people do relocate here from other states, but people relocate here from within the state a lot as well. Right now in our market, there's 20,000 plus damaged homes. We've actually sold a few of them with the drywall cut out, studs exposed, needing $100,000 worth of work. People are looking to buy those and rehab them and make them available to the public again. But let's think about the impact of this. So 20,000 homes. We'll just make the number of that for now. That's 20,000 families that now need another place to stay. We had a listing recently. It was a little townhouse, cool, in a cool spot in Clearwater, and we had 6 offers in the first few days. Half of those offers were people that had been flooded just a couple miles away. So the local impact, it's not like people just leave the state. A lot of people don't want to leave the state. Their families here, their lives are here. They want to stay here. So they're often looking for housing. They're looking to buy or rent some other place. But the impact of 20,000 homes just out of the whole area being uninhabitable is a big impact. Now, only a few thousand of those were actually on the market. It's not like all of those were for sale and now they're not for sale. So it doesn't affect the available inventory that much. But what it does do is all the other available inventory is going quicker because of all this other demand that's forcing people to look for another place. Another thing that's forcing these people to look for another place is the fear of this FEMA 50% rule. I talked about this a little bit in my other flooding video, but this rule states that you can only make significant repairs or improvements to your property up to 49% of the value of the building, the assessed value of the building. So if you look at your taxes, you have different assessed values, your building, your land, your improvements, your extras, things like that. So they take the number of the building and say you can only spend 49% of that to update or repair your property. If you exceed that, You have to bring everything up to current code. For most of these houses, that would mean tearing it down or building on a second story. So that's the letter of the law, but let's talk about what I think the spirit of that law is for just a minute. There's a lot of little old homes on the water. There's a lot of little old homes near the water, and the land is so valuable compared to the building. It is my understanding that the spirit of this law is to keep someone from buying one of those little houses and turning it into a luxury little house, adding on an owner suite, putting in a really nice pool, and improving it to a point to where the city, the county, the government thinks they should have just torn it down and built a house that's up to current codes, meaning some kind of elevated home. So people are really scared about the 50% rule right now. And I'm honestly a little nervous about it in Tarpon Springs as well. I actually just spoke to a friend that's on the city commission, and he told me that they are going to send out inspectors to check every damaged home to make sure that you're not exceeding this limit. They're not checking permits. They're not like tallying. I mean, they will check your permits, but they're not like tallying up your money outside of that. They're coming to your property, assessing, are you spending more than your limit? The cities have a lot of leverage here. I've heard in Dunedin of a few people getting shut down because of the repairs they were already doing. But it is a house that is worth about $1.5 million, and the building is probably only assessed at maybe $250,000 because it's a little old 3-bedroom house that was built in the 60s. Very similar to my house in Tarpon Springs, but on the water. Therefore, the property, because of the proximity to the water, is worth $1.5 million, where mine's only worth $500,000. Very different kind of scenarios, but that one got stopped, and no one has asked me any questions at all. Nor did they ask me any questions last year, and this rule was in effect last year as well. A lot of people have asked me if I think this will affect insurance. Yeah, probably. My insurance doubled before these last 2 storms. It hasn't gone up since then for my flood insurance specifically. So I don't know how much it will affect flood insurance since mine had already gone up a lot. Now it could go up again, but I just paid the premium in August, so it wouldn't be until August that it would go up again. But think from the perspective of an insurance company for a minute, and I know none of us like insurance companies. They're kind of like the mafia, and you have to buy stuff from them or you can't buy a house. So insurance companies, if I own an insurance company, Florida will probably just be off limits for me. Claims are big, people are litigious, and I mean, people are litigious everywhere. It's not just a Florida thing, but if you drive down US 19 or a lot of other highways, I've had clients even ask me like, is it really common to sue the other person if you get in a car wreck? Because there's billboards for it everywhere. I'm like, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. I wouldn't do that. But the litigious nature of insurance in general has kept companies from coming back to the state. Let's talk real quick about how all this connects to the real estate market. You're probably not here to just hear me talk about my thoughts about insurance or my thoughts about the 50% rule. I am a realtor and this is what we do. So you probably want to hear me talk about that. The population has been growing in the Tampa area for a long time. We've seen chunks of the area grow in big spurts over the past 20, 30 years, like Brandon and Riverview, like Wesley Chapel, like Pasco County in general over the past 5 years. Now we're seeing it down on the north side of Manatee County. And on the north side of Manatee County, you have like Parrish, where they're building massive master plan communities now that are really kind of in a unique spot. All this growth and development keeps happening. The population keeps growing. Businesses keep expanding, but there's still, like I've said, there's not like a big industry here. It's medical. There's a lot of medical. There's a lot of education. There's a lot of infrastructure jobs, but there's not like a big industry. There's not a big job provider. And I'm not just saying like one company. I'm saying like an industry. There's not like software's not big. Financial services isn't that big. It is big, but it's not like huge. It's not like we have like universities. You know, watching the election last night, they kept talking about like the research corridor. What do they call it? They're in North Carolina, where there's so many universities right there around Raleigh-Durham. Super interesting. But that area is known for that. Tampa isn't really like known for something specifically. But let me put that to you guys. Comment down below, what do you know Tampa for? I'm super curious to know what you think of it. Even though all this growth and development has happened, affordability has taken a hit. Prices went up and then rates went up and other costs have gone up. Like insurance costs keep going up, home insurance, flood insurance, car insurance, those things keep going up. And Tampa was also really high on the inflation list in the past 4 or 5 years as well. But also real estate from Sam's perspective. 2024 was the lowest amount of real estate transactions in the past 30 years. That's in the country overall. Tampa was a little bit insulated from that. Our market has been a little bit more consistent than the rest of the country. We haven't had big inventory drops or inventory climbs just like other areas have had. Look at an area like Boise. Boise, Idaho had massive price appreciation, and then once everything leveled out, the inventory spiked through the roof. Tampa real estate inventory never actually got back to pre-pandemic levels. It got close, but then all of a sudden you have a storm right now that damaged 20,000 plus homes. It changes things even more. So in 2025, there's going to be a lot more new construction. They're going to go faster, they're going to build bigger, and they're going to build further out, like further away from the water, because people are even more timid about the water. People are even more timid about living near the water than they have ever been because of these last 2 storms. Now, the thought of the storms will die down. It does. It always does. But since it seems like a few years in a row where it's been really close calls, I wonder how much differently it will linger. I'm really curious what you guys think. And as always, we'd love to be your real estate choice in the area. If you have any questions about real estate specifically, or you want to talk about your flood insurance claim, or you want to buy a distressed property that's flooded, or you want to make sure you're not in a flood zone, we can accommodate all those things. We'd love to hear from you anytime. And if you made it to the end of the video, I really want to hear from you because you're stuck around. So give us a call, text, or email anytime. Thanks for coming by.